it's me Leonie, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing the EON duology by Alison Goodman. This fantasy duology consists of EON and EONA. I read both these books the past 2 weeks and I absolutely love them. You know how I once said that I don't get book hangovers? This series put me into a pretty serious book hangover, so because of that book hangover I thought I'm just going to review these books, because I know that a lot of people have had these books on their TBR for a very long time, because these books were published about 8 years ago and no one's really talking about it anymore, so there's not really an incentive to pick it up. This video is going to be your incentive. This is a fantasy series set in a country that is based on Chinese and Japanese culture, and it is about this girl EONA who is trying to become the next Dragon Eye, which means you can use the power of the dragons that live in this country. The only problem is only boys are allowed to become the next Dragon Eye, so EONA dresses up as a boy, calls herself Eon, and that's where the adventure begins. This review will be spoiler free, so feel free to keep watching. No, seriously, keep watching because I want people to read this series. Alright, so let's first talk about the world building. So as far as the world building, like I said, this story takes place in a country that is based on Eastern culture, and I thought Alison Goodman did an amazing job at the world building. Throughout the story, all these little details and customs are weaved into the story without ever really slowing the plot down. And it wasn't just in foods and clothing and architecture, it was really the way people think and the customs and the culture that really shined on the page. Things like honor, social status, and also the difference between men and women really affected the way people acted in these books. I also really liked the fact that there were, well, dragons. In the EON duology, dragons are more like beings of energy that live in the spirit world, so there's no actual physical fighting with the dragons, so don't have that wrong expectation when you go into this. As far as the characters, so we have our main character, EON or EONA. I really liked her as a character, especially towards the second book. She really becomes this kind of anti-hero. In the first book, we mostly see her struggle with kind of her identity because she had pretended to be a boy for about 4 years now. And because women are of such low social status in this story, that really posed some problems for her. In the second book, we definitely get to see more of a dark side of EONA. I am always a sucker for the trope of the pull and appeal of darkness and power, and that's definitely a very strong theme in this book. EONA really struggles with the fact that she has so much power, and I totally love seeing characters go to like the dark side of magic and how it's like getting to them and then they're trying to overcome that struggle. All the side characters are very interesting characters, 3D characters that really stand on their own and definitely don't fit into like a specific stereotype. As far as the villain, I have to say that the villain in EONA, Lord Ido, is definitely up there right now as one of my favorite villains. He is the kind of villain that makes you question your sanity. You want to hate him, but you also kind of like him, but you also hate him, but you also kind of like him, and you would almost call a therapist. I have to say that I found the villain in the second book a lot less interesting, whereas Lord Ido in the first book was a more well-developed character in my opinion, with like his own struggles and feelings and ideas and everything. The villain in EONA was more just, you know, your typical villain that sits on his throne laughing uncontrollably about how he's going to take over the throne and kill everyone and become a powerful emperor and stuff. And I tend to not really enjoy those villains. I like my villains humanized. As far as the plot, I can tell you that it is one big roller coaster. I think what made me so emotionally involved into these stories is because Alison Goodman just constantly creates this impossible conflict. If you are the kind of person that really likes morally gray characters and just moral ambiguity in your story, then you will definitely enjoy this, because especially the second book is full of moral conflict. This series is full of dilemmas where it just doesn't matter what you do, it's gonna end up wrong, and sacrifices have to be made. It's not one of those stories where everything just conveniently falls together in the end. No, people suffer. And lastly, I will tell you a little bit about the romance. The first book, EON, actually doesn't have a romance story, it totally did not bother me because there were constantly so many other important things happening that the lack of romance definitely did not do anything bad to the book. However, the second book does have a romance, and I do have to say that I thought it was kind of random because the romance happens between two characters that Iona has already known since the first book, and there was like no romantic interest in the first book, and then suddenly in the second book there's quite a lot of romance. So even though I thought the romance was very well done, it was kind of a random transition. This is one of those romances that really needed to be in the story because the plot of the romance really weaved together with the overall plot in the book and really pushed the story forward. The romance plot in this book really helped with character development and brought extra conflict. It wasn't just a romance in the back of the story, it really was an essential part of how everything would play out in the end. So overall, I think this series is a very unique one and I would recommend it to anyone. I would say that if you like the Grisha trilogy, you would also enjoy this series, even though it's a completely different story. It is also one of those stories where the main character figures out that she is a special power, and it's a fantasy story that is based on a foreign culture, and it also deals with the appeal of darkness and power and everything. So if you like the Grisha trilogy, definitely give this one a try. So in the end, I gave Eon 5 stars because it was just one big roller coaster of awesomeness, and even though Iona gave me a lot more feels, I gave this one 4 stars because, like I said, the romance was a little bit like random, and I also was not very happy with the ending. So without spoiling, I would say that at the end I found that Alison Goodman had created this amazing opportunity for herself to do something with the story, and she just didn't take it. And I was very sad because I had high hopes for something to happen in the end, and it didn't. And I thought the story would have been a lot better if Alison Goodman had taken that chance to do something really cool with a certain character at the end. That's all I have to say. And that was my review of Eon and Eona by Alison Goodman. I hope you enjoyed it. I really hope you decide to pick up these books because seriously, I need to talk with someone about these books. And that was it for today's video. I will see you another time. Goodbye! I realize now that I look slightly intimidating. Details that I can't speak were I don't know what I'm even trying to say. Women are of such a and because women are of such